Dear brothers, it's about quality, not quantity.
So guys, it should be your conversation, the way you flow, your presence is enough for a woman to want to be around you, not how much money you spend.
Dear sisters, it's about knowing your value.
My sisters out there, don't be afraid to scare a guy off just because you have standards.
Dear brothers, dear sisters, it's time to come together.
Hey, what up, my people? Welcome to another edition of DBDS Live, where mature conversations do exist. And I'm your host, Mel Mundy, with my partner, my ace, my brother, Carl the coach, the accountability coach, may I add. How's your weekend coming along, my brother?
Oh, man, I can't complain, man. It's been a great week. Everybody dealing with the snow out here, some different degrees, but it's been cold. But I mean, hey, no complaints. Wonderful weekend. Hang out with wonderful friends, doing some things, had a chance to rest up the weekend too. So I can't complain.
Yeah, I hear you, brother. Speaking of that, to my fellow brothers and sisters who reside in the New England area or the tri-state area, we especially appreciate you tuning in because I know how it is, to be up here. Just being from Connecticut, I'm aware that you have to be prepared for these big storms. You got to have that generator ready. You got to have that snow blower ready, that shovel, as long as your back doesn't go out. Everything. Make sure the food is stacked. So we greatly appreciate that. And I'm telling you, Carl, the good thing about high technology is that we mostly can predict these storms when they do come. But unfortunately, sometimes in life, there are some things that you can't predict. And that includes our sister Tanisha, who just lost everything due to a house fire. And my prayers and thoughts goes out to her and her family. And right about now, what we are doing is, listen, we want you guys to support her. She does have a GoFundMe link on her personal page. That's Tanisha Levon. Also, you can go to her Cash App, which is the Osan Allure. So make sure you donate because, listen, there are things in life that does happen. And this is one of our sisters. So please make sure you go there and bless her. Anything you want to add, my brother Carl?
Yeah, it's definitely we can't predict when tragedy is going to come in any way, shape, or form. And I just I know when I saw the initial post, I was just like, man, is this a memory or is it Facebook memory or what? And then see it current, man, just like I said, prayers out to her and her family, and I'm just thankful that no one got hurt. Her son did a phenomenal job knocking on all the neighbors' doors to make sure everybody got out and make sure his brother wasn't there and stuff. But it's tough, to lose literally, everything and have to start from scratch. So, if you can find your heart to help her, whatever, nothing is too small. And that'll, like I said, to bless, her and her family. So, they've got to literally rebuild from scratch with everything.
Absolutely. Well said, my brother. So, trust me, your love and support will be a tremendous help. Every little bit counts, my people, because we all has some situation that came at us unexpectedly. So please make sure you donate and do whatever you can to help her. Also, we do have some access. We have amazing content. So if you want to have access to a lot of our amazing content, make sure you go to our website, dearbrothersdearsisters.com. That's the official website dedicated to healthy and monogamous relationships. So if you're looking for a coaching session for my brother Carl, or if you want to get a book to read up on called The Kingdom of Pearls from my sister, Dr. Peggy Johnson, there are some great materials and resources there on that site. So there's no excuses. There's a lot of things out there that can help you obtain and maintain a healthy relationship. All right. So with that being said, today's topic that we're going to touch on today, that we are going to give you some tips to help you, is title, Take a Hard Look in the Mirror. Whew. What you think about this topic, my brother?
Hey, as an accountability coach, it's needed. I don't want to give away some things I might say, but yeah, it's definitely needed. We have to, like you said, and one of the topics, subtopic we'll do, you got to face reality sometimes. I think a lot of times as people, we really just, we're just afraid of what we may see, afraid of what's there in the mirror. But yeah, we just have to do a better job with that and stop, getting a different mirror and thinking what we see is one thing and it's not. But we're really seeing what's in that mirror.
Absolutely. All right. So with that being said, this is it. It is time to start bringing our guests into the studio. All right. So the first one to join us, this is her first time on DBDS Live. I mean, this sister is very open-minded. She also has her own podcast, which is very intriguing, and she has amazing topics up there and guests. I want to welcome our sister, Nakia, to DBDS Live. Welcome, my sister.
Thank you for the great welcome. I appreciate it very much so. Hi.
How you doing?
Sister?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Great.
You're doing great, my sister. Doing great. So tell the people a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and why you're on the show today.
All right. Well, I am from New Jersey. And like I said, I want to thank you guys again for welcoming me to your platform. I am the sum total of my life experiences, right? Like, I truly do not like to place finite definitions onto myself. So I like to say that I am who I am based on everything that I have truly experienced in life. And I don't count anything as like a regret. I count everything as truly a learning experience and something that I can definitely grow from. And I truly love your platform because of all of the topics that you truly do discuss, because it challenges the person to think openly and to think honestly. And it honestly makes a person choose a different way, right? If they're open and honest to a different way of thought, right? So I truly thank you, and I'm happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so much, my sister Nakia. And listen, we're honored for you to come on the show. And experience is always the best teacher. So I'm pretty excited to hear your perspective and looking forward to you dropping jewels. Absolutely.
That's what we do. Drop jewels.
That's what I'm talking about. And next, coming into the DBDS Live studio, this is her second time here. And listen, Carl and I, we were so amazed by the jewels she was dropping that we had to bring her back to drop even more jewels. So I just want to welcome back our sister, Patience, to the DBDS Live studio.
Hi, guys. Thank you. How are you?
Good.
We are doing great.
Good. Awesome.
Back a little hurt from shoveling and everything, but stretch it. But
I'm glad you're good. Glad everything is good out there and work out.
Thank you. So we do have some new viewers in the studio. So tell the people a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and why you're on the show today.
Awesome. Well, my name is Patience Yaboa. Originally, I'm from Ghana, West Africa, and but currently I reside in Paris, California, with my amazing fiance and an amazing 10-year-old son. And while I'm on this show, my God, my fiance was here first, and he introduced me to these amazing two gentlemen here, and it's just been such a blessing, learning and growing and just getting a different perspective on what your platform is all about. The importance of the relationship in our community and building positive relationships. And I think it's so amazing, and just I'm honored to be part of it. I'm honored to be able to share, learn, and grow with you guys. So thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you, sister, for your positive words. And matter of fact, this show today is going to talk a lot about growing. The topic is take a look in the mirror. So, I believe this is a great topic to discuss, because I would say so many people have that, I would say, perfectionist mentality that it can never be them. They're not here to embrace their flaws, and I think that's a part of the reason why they can't get the relationship they desire, because they don't take ownership on certain things. They don't take responsibility for their actions. And I feel like they tend to blame everyone else. This is why they continue to have those revolving door relationships that they just come and go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first topic that I would like to touch on, and you could tell in Carl's name. So the first one we're going to touch on today is accountability. Man, I mean, accountability is like kryptonite to a lot of people out there, right? So I'm going to size this up here. So I would say that most people, from my perspective, have had a bad relationship experience from those from in life. And the thing is, we all been through some horrific situation, but you have to take those lessons and use it as an opportunity to grow.
Mhm.
But the problem is, a lot of people, they don't take ownership, as I mentioned, or I would say acknowledge their behaviors that may have contribute to that negative experience. And I feel like if more people were accountable, then they'll
Mhm.
start thinking about what they can do to become a better version of themselves so they can prepare and position themselves for a healthy relationship. So first, I'm coming to my sister, Nakia. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
I honestly think that it is twofold, right?
Hmm.
Part of it is accountability. It's you being accountable to yourself and being able to recognize within yourself the areas in which you potentially need to improve upon, right? But then another part of it is still accountability, but it's in the realm of being able to recognize the signs. I myself have definitely experienced poor relationships. And one of the things that I began to realize is that I needed to be accountable to myself to say, Nakia, okay, you have given leniency where leniency wasn't necessarily respected, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in which you're giving a person leniency, you're giving them leniency in order to improve. But what's actually happening is that they view your leniency as an area of I want to say to take advantage of, right? So they don't necessarily improve, but they give you a viewpoint as if there is improvement in the future. But truly, what they are doing is they're repeating the same areas in which you're saying needs improvement. And they're just like, nah, I'm just going to keep repeating this same cycle and I'm going to take you through this cycle. And so, what I had to become accountable to is myself and saying, okay, you recognize there was an issue, but
Mm-hmm.
now what is the change that you expect to this issue? And then being accountable to yourself that when you don't see this change, in order to act accordingly, right?
Right.
And what I failed at personally was I failed at holding another person accountable to what I expected, because we are then taught you shouldn't expect anything. Don't expect anything from a person other than what they're expecting to give you. And it's like, no, that's not actually the reality of the situation. At the end of the day, we live a life of, we live a life full of expectations. So I can set expectations for how I expect myself to act. I can also set expectations for how I expect for you to also react as well and also act. And then if you act outside of what I expect, I should be able to communicate that to you to say, you know what, I think we need to go back to the drawing board here because something is off with what I am expecting compared to what you're actually giving. Right. And I think that we fall into a constant state of confusion because we are told don't expect anything from anybody, but then at the same time we are expected to act a certain way towards another body, right? So what I had to do is balance out those two and say, you know what, there's nothing wrong with my expectations because my expectations are not too far high and they're not too far low. I'm like right here at the standard of what I expect a man. And I believe that I am acting in the way in which that would a man would expect for a woman to act. So if anything is imbalanced, then we should be able to communicate and be accountable to whom? Each other, as well as to our individual self to say, am I acting within the realm in which I am expected to react as a woman, as a man, as a husband, as a wife, as a human being? Am I here? And I think that sometimes what happens is that we miss that level of accountability because we've been taught so wrong to say you shouldn't expect anything from anybody. No, that's not actually true. Because in order to have accountability, there has to be a certain level of expectation. And that's where I'm at with it, with life right now. I'm saying I am mixing this whole thought that you can expect, and I'm saying no, because I'm going to hold you to an accountability, because we're going to have communication. Like in anything, you should be able to have back and forth conversation. Like, I don't understand this whole thought process that you can't have communication, you can't go back and forth, you can't dialogue. Everything that begins to be communicated as a dialogue turns into a debate. And it's like, no, I'm not debating with you, I'm actually dialoguing. There's a difference. I'm not trying to sway you, but I want to have dialogue. So which would literally entail back and forth. Why? Because we have to come to a common ground of understanding. So I'm come to that level of understanding, and then with that level of understanding, we're going to have certain expectations, and with those expectations, we're going to hold each other accountable to what we expect. That's
Woo. Okay, man. Just had to do a mic drop and a bomb thrown out. Very well said, my sister. I mean, a lot of things you said does ring true. I mean, and I love how you stated holding each other accountable. You know, very, very important. I'm coming to my sister Patience. What are your thoughts on this particular topic? How important it is to hold yourself, be accountable?
Wow. Nakia, well said. Definitely. That is so relatable to me personally, in my past relationship, obviously. For me, accountability for myself, actually, something I've learned about myself, that I'm a giver, right? So, in the past, I tended to associate and attracted men that were takers, right? So, example, I was in 2 long-term relationships, each ranging for about 5 years each. The first one, I remember, doing these 2 relationships, I found myself eventually at some point in a relationship becoming the sole provider in a relationship. And the first relationship, he was like 16 years older than I was, and he was self-employed. And I remember doing the 2008, the reception, obviously, that affected his business and so far. So at first, I was okay, with everything, because it wasn't his fault, obviously. We weren't married, we were just dating, living together, boyfriend and girlfriend. But as time went on, financially, the savings that he had, everything had depleted. And now I was responsible for the home. And at one point, like Nakia said, we sat down and it's like, hey, you need to get a job. I mean, something, hustle, do something, help out, because now things are piling up. And at that time, my job at the time, I was being furloughed. So income had subsided. And the excuse was, well, I don't want to work for the white man. Right. So again, like she said, I didn't hold him accountable. I just kind of like angry, like, whatever, you don't want to work for the white man. Okay. He's feeling depressed, whatever it was. And I just let it slide. So as time went on, then financially, my health actually started deteriorating, because now, I go to bed, I can't sleep. I'm worried about the bills. He has children, they come over, we have to feed them. Credit card bills start going up. Everything just started, adding up. So for me, one day I had to really look at myself and say, what am I doing? This man is not my husband. I don't have no children with him. What am I doing? So what I did was I called the landlord and I said, hey, take my name off the lease. I went and found me a place and I left. And guess what? He was okay, right? He was okay. He stayed there while I left, moved on. I was angry. Okay, fast forward. I get into another relationship, my son's father, right? We are around the same age, have our whole future ahead of us. So we're gonna get married, have a children, have family, everything. Moving together, doing the same thing I did before, right? Moving together. I get pregnant. And at the time, my pregnancy, I was a high risk pregnancy. So right away, they put me on bed rest, almost lost the baby. Then I was told I couldn't work anymore. So he quit his job so he can take care of me because I had to go to the hospital like a few times out of the week. Quit job, financially, we were okay until we had the baby. Then we agreed and said, hey, you stay home. I told him, stay home with the child, our son, right? And go to school full time so you can get it out of the way online and take care of the son while I go to work, and I'll be responsible for the home until you finish school and then you can take over. So we agree on that. Everything was good, right? Our son turned 2 years old, and I remember he tells me, hey, he needs to go to daycare because I cannot focus on school and take care of a 2-year-old.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. So we put him on daycare. Again, daycare, $400 and something extra. So now that has become another bill, right? He's working from home, not doing anything else. So I said, okay, why don't you get a part-time job and have that job to pay for the daycare since you're not taking care of the baby anymore? Well, I'm depressed. I can't, God forgive me. I'm depressed. I can't work. I can't handle this. Okay. Again, not holding him accountable. I just let it slide. I continuously was doing everything that, I was doing financially. So I remember he was playing scratchers and he won second chances, $25,000. So I was like, okay. I get a couch out of it for my birthday. And I remember he decided that he wanted to go to Africa, back to Ghana to visit his family. So he takes our son, they go home for about a month. He comes back, his whole attitude, everything have shifted and changed. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? Now he's interested and want to get a job, want to work, and so far. Come to find out, he saw his friends and family, everybody was doing well. He felt like he was behind. So now he needed to, make things happen. So instead, though, he makes arrangement to move to a different state for employment without even telling me until like a month before he left. So he sit me down, tell me his plans, and I'm stuck. Like, okay, we have a 3-year-old now. I don't have anybody to help me with the child, and now you're gonna leave with no provision of how this child is gonna be taken care of. So I come home from work. I don't stop him from going. He leaves me a note telling me that he loved my son and I, and he left. I'm stuck. I'm angry. I'm mad. Right now, I settle for another, a taker. And I reach out to a friend of mine. Please help me with picking up my son. I was working from 2 to 10 at a time, and sometimes 2 in the afternoon to 6 in the morning. I'll come home, pick up my son, take him to daycare, lay down for a minute, go to work, and so far. So wherever he went, obviously it didn't pan out. So now he decided he wanted to come back. And after working on myself, being so angry, right, for the fact that I allow myself to not allow these men to take responsibility, in working and getting a job and helping the home. And now he wants to come back. And I'm like, no, you can come back in here. No, I worked so hard to be at a good place in my life with my son. I will not allow you to come back, So for a minute, I felt like I was a victim, you know, and I was blaming them for the decision that I made, allowing them, able men, healthy men, to get a job. Because again, once I left the relationship, all of them survived and they were okay, you know. So I really had to take responsibility, looking at myself in the mirror and take responsibility and realize that, hey, you're not a victim. There's no one to blame. You allowed these men to be takers and take from you, without you holding them accountable to what they needed to do as men, as your partner. And once I realized that, I have to shift my whole mindset of dating and the type of mind that I was attracting. Okay, so I think Carl said earlier, like I have to have a deal breaker, in a relationship where I felt like if a man wasn't financially, stable or gainful employed, I wasn't going to deal with them because I have experienced that, and that was something I wasn't willing to go about to do again, So I feel like responsibility is that I learned that true responsibility basically is just like fully owning everything in your life that you're responsible for,
Wow.
and time again, I think a lot of people don't fully own and take responsibility for the things that they contribute to affect their lives or even relationships, and we put up with those things, and then at the end we're mad, we're angry, and we're blaming and pointing fingers, where the finger is really pointed at us, not anybody else, because you allowed and I allowed those situations to happen. And because I was able to look at myself and say, hey, it was your fault, it wasn't their fault, because you allowed them to, I was able to move on. And now I'm in with an amazing man that he's like the 100% opposite of what I've dealt with in the past. But I had to work on myself and accept and pick from a different pool of men and better choices. So again, for me, like it says, if you want to attract something different, you have to become something different. And that's something I had to do for myself.
Ooh, okay. Very well said. Okay. Man, very well said. I mean, and I appreciate you both being vulnerable. I mean, your story, both you and Nikia's story, can definitely be used as a catalyst to someone that can relate to, and they can just be like, wow, they can turn in this cycle by taking accountability. So I appreciate that from both of you. Carl, man, I mean, amazing things said by both the sisters. From a man's perspective, how important it is to have account. Actually, Carl, before we come to you, because we have to get a couple of comments I want to look at quick from Ivan. This is what he has to say.
He said, my motto had always been, don't expect anything and you won't be disappointed.
Okay.
And he says, I think women do try to sway in their dialogue.
Okay. And one more for him.
That's from Floyd. He said, accountability always points the fingers back at yourself.
Very well said. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Thank you. Now I'm coming to you, Carl. From a man's perspective, how important it is to have accountability.
It's very important. I always look back, as a divorcee, even though, like I said, I didn't break my vows, I didn't break my commitment type of thing. Right. From the other side, I still had to take a look in the mirror at myself. That was the very first thing I can do. And I didn't like some things I saw. I saw where I could have been a better husband and things, and nothing did with grounds. I would tell people there's nothing with grounds to end a relationship, but it were things that I know I could have done better. But like I said, it's on the job training. Marriage is one of the things that we don't have a school you actually can go to and get a 4-year degree and then go out there and be married. We don't have that. So that's where that accountability for me came in. I said, okay, let me take a look at it. And I even so much as a point to, I put it in black and white and gave it to my 2 sons, so they don't make those mistakes when they get older and they get to the place where they want to marry. It also would help them to look for, not to see those types of things, not that you need to notice, when you're looking for a potential wife. But that's only when you can look at yourself and say, hey, this is not what a husband needs to do. Or as a husband, I don't need to accept these things. As a husband, I need to lead in this area. I can't allow these things no matter how they may feel or certain things like that. So that's for me personally. I had to get to that place and take that accountability, and that's part of healing. I always tell people, I said, when you can take accountability for your decision, you can really begin to heal. And I think a lot of people don't heal today because they can't take accountability,
Gotcha.
because it's easy to be a victim. I mean, it's easy. It's actually in the world of social media, being the victim is sexy. Being the victim is cool, because people, you get a bunch of likes and hearts when you're the victim, out there. You get the sad emojis, you get the hug emoji, when you're the victim, and so people thrive on that. Let me just see how many. Let me be the victim and keep telling my story or keep doing this, and people gravitate to that. But at what point in time do you take a look in the mirror, at yourself and say, I got to do better, And I always tell people too, I said, when you're dating, I hear people, oh man, these guys I keep dealing with, these women I keep dealing with, this and this. And I'm like, but you keep entertaining them. So when will you take accountability for you entertaining these people? When will you take accountability? Because you're the common denominator. You know, if you're married 10 times and you get divorced 10 times, you're the common denominator.
Damn, 10 times.
It just, if you got 5 baby daddies, you're the common denominator. I mean, and none of those men saw you as a wife before giving you a baby. I mean, I'm just keeping it real. As men, you got 5 different baby mamas, but you didn't see any of those women as a potential wife before having her carry your seed. Where's the accountability with that? And I think a lot of people run around here, like I said, this finger pointing. You point one finger, but there's 3 pointing back at you. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. So when you're looking in that mirror, to take that accountability, it's like, oh, I don't want to do that, because if I and here's the other thing, if I take accountability, I may have to go apologize to somebody. If I take accountability, I may have to go out and change the narrative of the lies that I've told and the stories that I've told, because now I actually saw that I was the problem. So I think a lot of people, it's easy to just say, I'm just not going to deal with it, or or those that love to say, oh, I'm just happy being single. You're happy being single because they don't take accountability.
Right.
It's just that simple. They're happy being single. Now, again, you get some people who get to that single place in their life where you need to be happy being single.
Yeah, of course.
But when you say you're content to go to your grave single and never get married and never, that's a different story when we start looking at those types of things, because it's like, okay, do you really mean that? And I think for a lot of people, it's not, they don't mean that. They're just afraid that they're not going to find anybody who's going to put up with their mess, and they want to continue to be the same person, because they're not going to be accountable. So it's like my clients that I coach with. If they come in and I'm like, well, what happened with your last relationship? Well, they did this and they so stop. Okay. What did you do? And I mean, I've had people tell me, hey, it was 100% on them. And I'm like, it's never nobody's 100% fault. Relationship ending. It's never, even if you might be 2%, you still need to take accountability for that 2%. I don't care if it's 98% of the other person, but a lot of people don't want to do that. And so, so from a man's perspective, as I tell brothers, take accountability, be accountable to your seed, stop shooting the club up everywhere, and dropping your seed off everywhere. You can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Stop just because how are you going to be accountable to your kids and explain that type of thing to them, that you just out here rough riding? That's we got to begin to change that narrative, and it's unfortunate. But like I said, accountability starts with yourself, and if you're not willing to, and that's even apologizing to yourself when you're accountable. Once you become accountable, you take accountability, you can begin to apologize to yourself for not being the person you were supposed to be. So you now can become the best person, the best version. So when that man finds you, or you find that woman, they get the best version of you, and y'all can build together.
And I don't know what to say, man. This studio gonna burn. You guys are coming out the gate swinging. All I'm hearing is like home runs from everybody. Listen, let's pull up some comments right here next to my brother Ivan again. Shout out to Ivan, by the way.
He said, genuine accountability will have you atoning to the woman you hurt from your past. He's speaking from a man's point. Yep, that's true.
True. Yes, brother.
And I think that's Magdalena said, unfortunately, a lot of people prefer to stay single out of fear of being accountable for their wrongdoings instead of facing them. Yeah, basically, I was saying, yep.
Well, see, that brings me up to my follow-up question, which I'll shoot it towards Nakia first. But I don't believe we were designed to be single forever, no matter how modern society attempts to spin this narrative. And I also believe, listen, you should be single if you're working on yourself or after a dysfunctional relationship. Listen, I get it. I understand. But do you think a lot of people use the term single by choice as a mean to not work on themselves, and they expect people to accept them for who they are?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? So you expect a person to love you for who you are, while at the same time you expect the person to grow to where you are becoming, right? And I think what happens is that what we find is there are a lot of single people out here, and there are a lot of single people out here because the truth of the matter is that a lot of single people have an issue with the word called compromise, right? Everyone is not going to be where you are at the same time in which you are there, right? And so sometimes we have to be able to see where a person is and meet them on a middle ground, right? And what we find is that what we are taught in our singlehood, in our singleship, is that we don't have to do that. Because at the end of the day, you should meet a person where they're at, and they should be where you're at. And if they are not where you're at, then therefore that means that they clearly cannot be the person for you because they're not where you're at the time in which you are there. And time does not work that way, right? Time does not line up for each individual person at the same time. And it becomes an issue with, can I begin to compromise for where a person is at to understand this is where they are, and can they get to where I'm at? Because if they cannot, then yeah, I need to move forward. But if they can, then can I compromise with some of the things in which I expect for them and not hold them to this expectation and then have them fail in accountability because I'm holding them to an expectation of where they are not, right? And I say that as a single woman, I have an issue with that, right? Because there are instances where I might expect the person like, no, you should be here, but I can't really expect them to be anywhere further than where they're at based on their own personal life experiences, which have gathered them to this point, right? Everyone, that's why I said who I am is the sum total of my life experiences. So where I'm at is because of where I have been able to gather myself in my life, right? And so I have taken the lessons, I have taken the bruises, I have taken the hurt, I have taken the pain, and I have bottled all these things up and said, okay, this is who Nakia is. So this is where Nakia is at. Another person might have just experienced something that I might have experienced 3 years ago, but I can't expect them to be where I'm at because I experienced that 3 years ago, but they just experienced it now. So where are we at in this level game of expectations to where I can say, okay, you know what? I can understand where you're at, and I can't expect you to be where I'm at because we are in two different playing fields at the same time. We've met each other, but I'm here and you're yet and still here. You still have some healing to do. You still have some reconciliation to do. You still have some level of restoration to do. You still have some level of redemption to do that. I've already done that because what you've experienced, I experienced that 3 years ago. So I'm already there, right? So you have to be able to meet a person where they're at and be able to understand where they're at. And I think a lot of the times in our singlehood, in our singleship, is that we come to situations and relationships with a list of expectations, and we don't fully understand where a person is at. So now we're left with unfulfilled expectations. And then we think that, oh, you know what, this can't be the person because they didn't hit this, they didn't hit that, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. And it's not necessarily what it is. It's just the fact that where we met them at, they just haven't been able to obtain that. And potentially, if we give them the right amount of time, and I'm not saying that you need to begin and see a lot of us women, I am included in this, I have learned the errors of my ways, is that sometimes we think that we need to help a person along the way, right? So then we become a person in which they are dependent upon, right? Because we have this need to be needed, right? Which is which technically is a characteristic of being codependent. Codependent people have a need to be needed. So therefore you find the neediest of needy people, and then you begin to fulfill the need of this person. That is not for you, codependent people. Let me put this plainly. I am not talking to you as it pertains to this. That is something totally different, and you need to get help for your need to be needed. Let me just put that out there, right?
Gotcha.
Now, for those of us that have reconciled our codependency issues, right, and have come to realize that we don't necessarily need to be needed, but it is a great feeling to grow with a person to where each other is satisfying needs, right? So therefore, we have grown past this other phase, and we begin to say, you know what? He has a need, I have a need, he's meeting my need, I'm meeting his needs. So now, therefore, we are meeting each other's needs. So we are now moving beyond the level of like one person draining the other person. No, we're actually meeting each other where we are at, right? So now we can then grow beyond singlehood. But there are a lot of people that cannot grow beyond the relationship status of single because we have a lack of understanding of what single really and truly is, right? And we have a lack of understanding of what single is because we have placed expectations upon a single status, and we've made single status equal dating status, equal courting status, equal married status, and it just does not equal any of that. It says what it says and it does what it does. So we have to build upon that. And we can't build upon that if we don't come to a level of understanding. And we lack understanding because we have an issue with how we actually communicate to understand each other's needs. Everyone has a different need, and we have to communicate each other's needs to know what is it that you need. My love language is different. Your love language is different. Everyone communicates differently. My apology language is different. How do we apologize to each other? Do you need acts of service as far as an apology is concerned? Do you need me to just recognize the fact that I did something wrong? Or do you need me to physically change something? All of that encompasses relationships, and we have only hit the surface of what relationships really are. And until we get down to this level of understanding each other, understanding how we communicate, understanding how we apologize, understanding how we actually understand, we're going to forever hit this cycle. And this is where we're at right now, because that's why there's so many single people saying I'm single. And until I find so-and-so, I'm going to remain single, because we don't understand each other. And it's a drain. And people don't want to be drained in relationships. They want to be fulfilled.
Okay. Man, can I get an amen? Where's my brother at passing the plate around, you know? Very well said. I appreciate your well, man, amazing perspective on that. So yes, I'm gonna come next to my sister Patience with the same question. I mean, I understand the term single by choice, you know, and that's as I mean, you know, some people that I come across, some use it as a deflector. Some people, as Nakia stated, listen, you got to come to an understanding. But do you feel that sometimes that term single by choice is a means not to work on yourself, or you know, you expect people to accept you who you are per se? How is that?
Yeah, definitely. Well said here.
Yes.
I'm like, it's hard to come and follow that, right? But yeah, definitely. I think, I mean, at the bottom line is, at the end of the day, um, we all do need to work on ourselves, you know. And some people, yeah, some people definitely don't want to look themselves in the mirror. They don't want to see where they are. They don't want to take accountability for their behaviors or why they keep attracting the same people. So in terms, they get stuck. And so single by choice is just the fact that, honestly, either a person have been hurt, disappointed. I mean, there's so many different factors that may have contribute to that. I mean, from, whatever it may be, past relationships. And because of not dealing with that and not dealing to grow and take responsibility, they get stuck, and at the same time, make the choice like, well, I'm okay the way I am. I'm single. We are not meant to be single. When God created Adam and Eve, there was a reason for that. We all need relationships. We need people in our lives, So unless, you are in an abusive relationship or something like that, again, and that's in itself too is a choice that you can stay there or move on. But being single by choice is basically, again, I believe and feel like it's the fact that some people, not all, don't want to face themselves in the mirror and don't want to take accountability. And then a lot of times, some people don't know how to do it. You know, they don't know how to do it. They don't know because they don't have the mentor. They don't have the people in their lives, the coaching, different things to help them. You know, right now we do have so much resources, you know, online and so many places to help you, life coaches, right? To help you phase and, you know, deal with your life and like taking accountability for your life. But a lot of times people are lazy, you know, they don't want to take the time out to really work on themselves. I think it boils down to working on yourself because the bottom line is, why do you want to go into a relationship and say, well, take me as I am, right? But you're not bringing peace to that home or that person that you're with, and they have work on themselves and they are at a good place. They are peace and they're bringing you peace. However, you're not able to, you know, bring the same thing to them. What good are you? You're not good. So in order for you to really get to that point or that place of being a partner in a healthy relationship with someone, you have to look at yourself in the mirror, just like the whole topic is about, and take accountability and stop making excuses and say, I'm single by choice. I'm single by choice. No, you're not single by choice. You're single by choice because you don't want to work on yourself. You don't want to do the work and you don't want to improve so that you can be at your best for that person that, you know, God has created for you. You know, I mean, in the past, yeah, like Nikia said, I've been in a relationship where I dated younger men that I'm more mature than they are, you know, so the things that I have gone through in life, they are barely going through that, you know. So it's frustrating, right? And I didn't understand of meeting them halfway and understanding where they are in life, that I have already been through that and they just barely get in there. And instead of being patient and helping them go through it, it was like, well, you're not for me, so let me move on. And sometimes it's okay to say you're not for me and let me move on, because if you're not bringing me peace, why should I stay there? Why should I stay there? No, it's not okay. So I think, you know, again, being single by choice, ladies and gentlemen, we are created to be in a relationship with one another. So if you do decide that you want to be single because of a choice or because of whatever your issues is in the past, whether with trust, whether with hurt, whether with betrayal, whatever that issue may be, work on yourself first. Work on yourself. And then once you work on yourself, you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, I deserve, you know, and then you have a pool to pull from, you know, and because now you have looked at yourself, you know your self-worth, you know your values, and now you're able to accept and be loved, and then love, you know, return love back to whoever that, you know, that comes into your life. So yeah.
Very well said. Okay. You people, this is not TMZ with the boom, boom, boom. Very well said, Patience. I mean, you're right. I mean, and I see that, you know, and from Nikia's perspective, I understand the understanding portion. My thing for my brothers and sisters out there is that, you know, if you're going to decide to be with someone that still haven't reached that because they going through something that you went through years ago, I would say be their supporter, but not their savior. All right. Very important difference. Be their supporter, not their savior. All right. So before I come to you, Carl, let's just pull up a couple of more comments here. This was for Nikia, by the way. This comment.
Yeah, that was it. She's preaching.
I was like, pass the plate.
Like for Nikia.
Next comment right here.
And then Floyd said, I agree. We have to be honest about where a person is in their lives. And if they have not done the work and you have, they may be a good person, but you cannot allow them to take you back to a place in which you have been healed from either. We will build from a place or a place from hurt. We'll build from that place or we'll build from a place of hurt.
One more from Ivan.
He said love languages change too, and they do.
Oh, absolutely. And same question. I mean, Carl, do you think a lot of people use the term single by choice as a mean to not work on themselves and expect people to accept them for who they are?
Yeah, I definitely, I'll say it this way. I'm single by choice because I'm in pursuit of a queen that's whole, healthy, and qualifies to be in that position. So that's why I'm single. See, that's
Gotcha.
different. You understand?
Mm.
So when I say I'm single by choice, I need someone who fits in that. She's healed, she's whole, she's healthy, she's a partner, so she can be that queen to a king. That's a difference when I'm saying I'm single by choice. When I find
Gotcha.
her, I will no longer be single. That's the difference. So I'm in pursuit of someone there. There are many though who will sit back and say, "Oh, I'm single by choice." They're single by choice because nobody's willing to accept their mess. They're
Gotcha.
single because people have seen through their facade. They've seen through their mask. They've seen through, they've run through all the people they can run through and pull game on, and they can't pull game on anybody else. Those days are over, So now they're in a position of sitting back and saying, I don't have anybody else I can pull the wool over their eyes. So I guess I'll just be single by choice because I can't fake this person out. It's like Little Red Riding Hood, with the wolf dressed up as grandma. These people are in that position where they can't be dressed up as grandma no more and fake it. People see right through it right away. And that's an issue. And and again, that's because they feel like I've got to get in it. And I've seen people who get into a relationship just to be the victim.
Wow.
And so they're content on that. They go into it with, and again, I think Nakia said it, and Patience, this expectation that some people have. They have an expectation that they want somebody whole and healthy, but they've never even done the work. And this is why they continue to stay single, because somebody sees that right away. And they're like, no. I mean, 5 minutes into a conversation with someone, I can tell if they've done some type of work. Okay. It don't take long. It doesn't come from me being a coach. It helps. I've gone down that road now, but it does help. But I mean, having a conversation, I can tell if somebody's done the work. And if they don't, if they haven't, there's no need for a second date. There's no need for a third date. There's no need for you to even continue to have access to me on my phone number. That's my partner will say, I'm the king of cutoff, king of block. I don't play. There's no need to continue because you don't qualify. You see what I'm saying? And so, like you said, I can support you, but I'm not going to save you. Now, if you want saving, and I'm not willing to be your savior, you can pay for my coaching classes, and I'll help you in that aspect. But as far as a relationship out of that, no, I'm not gonna, and I will never date a client. So once I move you into that realm, that option's off the table. But
Carl, you cut them right off?
Yes.
I just need to know how this cutoff works.
We'll talk afterwards. I'm gonna help you out on that, sister. I got you. Jesus. I love her. But it's real. I mean, there are so many people who just really don't get it. And they just, like I said, it's just it's the lack of doing the work. And that meme I just thought about, I was trying to think of it, my classic meme where it says, find a man who will love all your broken pieces back together. That is toxic from hell. It really is. I'm not loving you back together. You're draining me. You are draining me dry. And I don't even know what you're supposed to look like. So if I got a million pieces sitting here, it's like a puzzle. You get a puzzle and you dump it out. If you don't have the picture, at least on the box, to know what it looks like, to kind of start putting it together, you don't know what you're doing. You're going to be there for weeks just trying to figure out to get the first two pieces to link up. So now you tell me that, so you mean to tell me I gotta put your pieces back together from a man that broke you beforehand? No. Go put yourself together before you get yourself back out in the world wanting to date. And that's men or women. I'm keeping it real. If you're, don't come out here bleeding on people. Yeah. I'm not a medic. I'm not a first aid person. I'm not trying to wrap you up and bandage you up. Get that done. Get those scars healed before you come to me. I can love your scars. It's different. But I'm not designed to fix, just to sew your scars up.
Right. Man. And before we go to a commercial break, we're going to take one more comment. And this brother had a question right quick.
Is that from
or sister? I'm sorry.
Gail Hines. Yeah, Gail. She said, but does support what we have to define that. What does support look like? I guess that's what we're supposed to say.
Oh, okay. I'll give you an example. Support, and I'll tell you from a man's perspective. Support in my way looks like If you have a brother that you are dating and he's not doing nothing to establish himself, you know, he's jobless, got nothing going on, don't be the woman to go on the computer and type up his resume, send it out to a million places, go to the interview for him. I don't know if they have something like that, things of that nature. As a man, he's supposed to take that responsibility for himself, support him, influence him, push him, but don't do the work for him. That's just to use an analogy. Great question, Gail. And
if I can, right?
Yeah, please.
So this is just based on personal experience, right?
Mhm.
There's nothing clinical about what I'm about to say. However, there was a time in my life where I went through something extremely traumatic, and what I thought I healed wasn't necessarily healed because I had a lot of different barriers set in place because I never wanted someone to not respect my bounds, right? And I didn't want someone to overtake them, right? So I had a lot of different walls set up to not allow a person in. And what I learned through a process, which was that those walls that I set in place were very toxic to a male coming into my life, right? Because those walls signified a place where I was, not where I was actually traveling. So there does come a point in time in life where you can actually meet someone, because I did. I met someone that was able to point out to me and say, listen, this is very toxic. What I'm not going to do is deal with this. This is a toxic behavior. This is a toxic response to what has happened to you. You might not recognize this, you might not realize it, but I want to help you get through this, because what you're going to find is that you're going to place a lot of different barriers into relationships that is actually very toxic for you as a woman to overcome. And I had to really, like, at first I was like, what? You're trying to call me toxic? I ain't toxic. But then I had to take a step back and say, you know what? He's not calling me toxic. What he's saying is that my level of protection does not allow a man in. So if I want to allow a man in, then therefore I need to relax these levels of protection, or even these levels of responses that I am given to certain behaviors. Because at the end of the day, you have women nowadays that promise, they swear everything a man is doing, if he doesn't do what you want him to do, he's cheating. That is truly a trauma response. It is a toxic response. It is not something that is conducive for any level of a relationship, because you're constantly thinking that there's someone else, when really and truly he's just busy. He's just tied up. He's just whatever it is that he is, right? Wow. And what he is and who he is, as you accuse him to be something that he is not, is a trauma response to you and what you have encountered based on someone else that has nothing to do with him. And I had to realize that, because sometimes we build up these trauma responses to where we literally will be a turn off as opposed to a magnet. I believe, and it's just Nikia, that as a woman, we should draw. I believe that, right? I believe that as a woman, we literally should draw a man in. And sometimes what we do is we are actually like the opposite of that, where we literally propel them away, because what we are doing is we have a trauma response based on what someone else did way back here, or even just the last relationship that we've had.
Where's the plate? Where's the plate?
And it's because we have not healed beyond a certain point. There are some men that can help you to heal beyond that point. Some, not all, there are some, but we have to begin to realize when we are affecting our total life outcome, right? What you want is not what you are getting, because you're affecting it based on how you're responding and reacting to someone's love, to someone's attention, to someone's emotion, to someone's spirituality. And we have to learn how to get away from that level of a response, because it is a turnoff. It is an absolute turnoff. I had to learn it. I had to learn it very well, because I was like, you know what? I don't want to propel. I want to draw. So if I want to draw you into me, because as a woman, I learned that my place is a place of peace. And if they can't find peace within me because I'm at war, then what are they coming home to? Because a man has to experience war outside. A man does not want to experience war in the house. So every time they come home, they got to, well, who were you with? And what were you doing? And what happened here? And what happened there? Oh, okay. So what did she say?
Where's
And
the
then
damn plate?
you got to deal with this level of animosity because your own personal insecurities is taken over, as opposed to you being confident in who you are, what you are, and where you stand in his life. I'm only speaking from a woman's aspect. I cannot speak from a man's standpoint because I am not a man. I am a woman, all woman. My pronouns are she, me, her, and all the other things that signify a woman.
I appreciate you being clarifying that. No, it goes back to something my video. Yeah, I'm going
to clarify all of my good. She's female. Okay, her. I am not a there. I'm not a them. I am a she. I am a her. I am Nakia. I'm female. I am one man. So I'm only coming at this from this aspect because I know how much of a barrier it was for me because I was hurt. And as a woman, we have to deal with what and where we were hurt. And then a man will come in, because there are some that can literally walk us through that path. But there are others that'll be like, you know what? You're a little too damaged. I can't deal with this because I cannot. And guess what? And there's nothing wrong with a man saying that he cannot deal with the fact that you're still hurt. There's nothing wrong with him. It's everything within your own personal self. And I think a lot of the times that we like to deflect onto the man because he's saying, I can't deal with this. And it's not his fault that he cannot. Because he doesn't have to deal with the fact that you're hurt. You have to deal with your own personal hurt. And then you have to deal with your own personal journey. We all have a journey in this world. Whatever that journey is, I want you to live it through. I want you to walk it through. I want you to run it through. But you need to get through that journey. You know what I'm saying? And we cannot keep along with this attitude and with this gumption of that every man has to pay for what the last man did. He does not. That ain't where he was at. He wasn't there. He had nothing to do with it. He doesn't even have no record of it because it wasn't him. Now, unless you choose to stay with the person that was him, then yes, he needs to walk through that journey with you and be patient enough. And even if he's not, leave him where he's at because he's the one that caused the initial hurt. Repair within your own personal self. Repair the breach, because there was a breach. There's a breach of trust. There was a breach of honesty. There was a breach of transparency. There's so many breaches that come with hurt. Repair the breach, and then let us move forward. Because let me tell you something. There is such a peaceful and joyful life outside of trauma and outside of hurt, and we have to be able to get there. But we can't get there trying to make everybody pay for what someone did, and they ain't had nothing to do with it. I am a living witness of it. Y'all don't know what I've experienced, but I can tell you this. It was a lot, and I am now 4 years post-trauma, so I'm going to tell you the truth. It was a lot, but I had to make it through, and you can too. We have to make it through it. You cannot continue to make everyone else pay for what someone else did, and they wasn't even privy to the party. They ain't even know the party was going on.
Yeah, they didn't get in the VIP section. Very well said, my sister. So listen, this was only one topic, everyone. We haven't touched on the other topics. We're going to touch on one more, but before doing so, and before we hit a commercial break, let me just get to some comments right quick.
I can't remember who that was. Somebody, she said Carl's on fire today. Yeah, I was looking at this.
All right.
Oh, it's from Elizabeth. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have to. Gail said, "How does putting yourself back together look like?" Yeah, we have to touch on that another time.
Yeah, we'll touch on that.
Definitely do a show on that. Yeah, we do a healing show on that. Floyd said, "Wow, you guys are dropping nuggets in our classes in session."
Yeah, classes in session, man.
The team, hey sis, she said, "Don't do the work for him." Loud and Mel.
I appreciate that comment, Natima. Appreciate it. Next one from Natima.
But Matima, she said, teach sis, talking to the kids. She said, walls and boundaries are not the same.
Mhm.
Walls keep people out. Boundaries set standards for the people you let in. That's good, Nakia.
Okay.
And Jermaine said, my partner, he said, give it to him, Nakia.
Woo, man.
And from Monique, she said, say that, Queen.
Okay. And last one.
That's from Floyd dropping the bomb.
Hey, I already dropped the bomb. All right. So listen, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're just going to touch on one topic. And then after that, we're going to pivot to our Jerry Springer moment where we'll just summarize the show. This is DBDS Live. Sit tight. Don't you go anywhere.
So many people are calling for police reform. And so because they're calling for police reform, they may not understand that there are many organizations who are already responding.
And I feel like you have to really get to know people, see if they share the same core values as you before you get involved with them.
I want to ask a question as to how we got to this place right here where mask wearing, where COVID-19, where public health is all politicized. I really want you all to think about this. How did we get to this particular point?
It's really a nice balance when femininity and masculinity can mix together and just create this awesome, experience.
All right, we are back in the DBDS Live studio. I'm here with my sister Nakia, my sister Patience, my DBDS brother Carl, myself Mel, and we just been chopping it up, talking about, take a hard look in the mirror. That's what today's topic is about. And before we get to our next and last topic, and before we pivot to our Jerry Springer moment, I'd just like to give a shout out to some people in the studio. So shout out to Elizabeth. Thank you for tuning in. Tanira, my sister More Crystal, Jess Marie, see you. My brother Jeff Roderick, Sharon Robertson, Amber, my brother George. What's up, George? My brother Ronald, my sister Aminata, if I pronounced that correctly, Alicia Stewart, Tamika Green. Big shout out to you, Floyd. You need to come back on the show. Tia Carr, Katara, Tamika Borders, Jillian, Tony, Monique, and the list goes on and on. And shout out to my brother Gotham from India, from across the other side of the world. He's watching the show. So we appreciate you, everyone, for tuning in. So now we are going to go ahead and touch on the last topic. And the last topic that we will touch on, which is also important, is the fear of facing reality. Man, when you look in that mirror and listen, some traits come out that you're afraid to face. This is the topic we have to talk about. So let me size this up. So listen, I'm a huge advocate for proactive thinking, which simply means that I feel like you are driven by morals and values. But in today's modern society, some people don't even realize that they don't have morals and values. And therefore, I believe that's a huge reason why they can't obtain or maintain a healthy monogamous relationship. Because my thing is, if you're leading with your wallet or you're leading with your pretty face or your nice body, that will only get you so far. But the reality is, no quality man or woman will put up with someone who is disrespectful, have a nasty attitude, or someone who has an entitlement way of thinking. Mm-hmm. These are some traits that you will have to look at if you look in that mirror, if this is what you embrace. All right. So I'm coming to my sister Patience. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
Well, I think the fear of facing reality. I think a lot of times, obviously, most people don't even know what type of reality they're facing in their lives, and when you don't know, obviously, you're not able to face it. And for me, I think it all goes back again. I think a lot of my past relationships, things that I have to, face the reality of, again, I feeling like being an enabler to men, taking the role of a man, because I was brought up in the sense of um, I never waited for someone to do anything for me. If I needed something done, I just have to get it done.
Mm.
So in relationships, I took those into relationships. So a lot of times, I allowed, again, being in a relationship with men that weren't doers, didn't, they weren't leaders. And so I found myself being the leader in the relationship. And because of that, um, it caused me a lot of, hurt, pain, disappointment, because I had all these standards that I was looking for in a man. And a lot of the men that I came across didn't have those type of standards,
Mm.
So once for me, again, once I looked at myself in the mirror and realized that, I'm not a victim. I wasn't a victim in my past relationships, and that I needed to take accountability for where I was and why things were the way, they were. It shifted everything in my mind, my life, in my thinking about relationships and the type of relationship that I wanted to be in, or the type of future I wanted to have. I remember when my son's father and I, again, um, after he left and he was trying to come back, and our family, I went back to Ghana, and his mother, sister, my mother sat me down, and to try to have us work things out.
Mm.
And I remember, for me, I was like, look, he left our family, he left us cold, I was stuck, I had to take care of everything for years. So
Mm.
I was told that I was being pitied for the way that my response were. I was being pitied. And that there are women out there that experience worse things in relationship than the way that I was feeling. Right. So I was told that I needed to apologize to him for not allowing him to come back into my life again, and not opening my door when he came back. And as a result, I became and looked at as a bad person, because I
Wow.
wasn't willing to tolerate that anymore. Right. So it got to a point where, I felt like the reality was like, again, my relationship with them, obviously, it wasn't the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
So facing reality meant that, sometimes when you're facing your reality, it could be, you're going to have to take actions, right?
Mm.
Even when finding the way is
Mm-hmm.
difficult, because there are people that are not going to see this, agree or see things the way that you see it, because it's your reality, it's not their reality,
Mm.
right? And the reality is, once you accept accountability for your actions, why you keep doing the same thing, whatever you're doing that is attracting, the same, or you getting the same result, you may feel alone, right? You may even feel rejection by family, friends, or whatever, you may be misunderstood, or you may be judged by your decisions. And I felt all those things, when I had to face my reality. And so, I came to understand that, what, facing and working, on my reality, no matter what it is or how, challenging it was, it really, allowed me to be in a good and positive place in my life, you know,
Mm.
and where I was able to build and trust, um, and have a healthier relationship with men. It never stopped me from, once I realized I wasn't a victim and faced that reality, and that, I contributed to the way things were in my past relationships. It allowed me to be in a positive place where I didn't take it on to the next relationship. The next man, like Nikia said, I didn't have to pay for, you know, um, this man here or these people here feeling like I was taken advantage of, So at the end of the day, I think taking responsibility, facing your reality, which is only you know what that is, and it cannot be done from anybody else. You know what your reality is, you know what you have to go through, you know what you need to do, and facing that, it's a positive, rewarding thing, and it will affect every area and every aspect in your life. So the reality is, be positive
Mm-hmm.
and keep moving forward, even if it doesn't make sense to anybody else around you.
All right, my sister. Okay. I love this. I love this. Well said. Before I come to Nakia, you know how many times I heard from, I would say, loved ones and even strangers back then that I needed to develop a backbone. And to me, at first, it was like hard for me to, I would say, reevaluate myself. But when I made that turning point, it created growth. And to those who can relate, you should never stop learning. And that consists of working on your communication aspects or becoming more emotionally centered or become more open minded. Because once you face that reality on what is holding you back to get the relationship you desire, then you will have the answers to start moving forward to get the relationship you desire. So I just wanted to share that. Um, Coming to my sister Nakia, what are your thoughts on this topic?
I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm going to stick to just one thought, right? And the thought is this, right? When I wrote a book, it's right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I literally wrote this book, The Secret Wives, The Lies That Bind, right? One of the things that I had to come to terms with is reality. What was the reality of the situation? What was the reality of the marriage? What was the reality of the relationship compared to what I had in my mind? My mind was dealing with what was ideal, right? Idealistically, this is what I thought. Idealistically, this is what I wanted to have. Idealistically, this is what I expected. But what was the actual reality? Once, a little bit of the story. Once my head went through a car window, there no longer was an ideal world. I had to snap out of that and jump into reality, right? The reality was this was an abusive situation. The reality was this was an unhealthy situation. The reality was this was a very toxic situation, right? So I had to deal with the reality of the fact that I was living in an ideal world. A lot of the times what we fail to understand is that sometimes we have made up a world in our own mind that we begin to play out those pieces, and it's not the actual reality of what we're actually living, right? So for me, I literally had to, once the glass shattered with that window, with the back window, with the window that is probably one of the most securest windows. Why? Because that window has all those little lines in between it in order for it to heat up, in order for, you know what I'm saying, ice to defrost and stuff like that, right? So once my head went through that window, I was like, you know what? Wait a minute. There's something here that I was not seeing prior to this point. And now that I'm at this point, I got to snap into reality. Reality says, ma'am, it's time to retreat. Reality says, ma'am, clearly anyone that is going to put your head through an entire car window, especially the back window, he cannot possibly love you. The reality says is that this person that can do something like this, so tragic to you in front of a church, clearly has no respect, regard for even human life. So now I got to deal with the reality of the fact that I live in an idealistic world in my own mind, right? And I think a lot of the times what we fail to realize is when in our mind we have painted a picture that is not the truth. Right. And when you're dealing with reality, you're literally dealing with what is real, what is before me, what is present, what is it that I see. Right. Because any person can get you to see something that is different than what your eyes are actually telling you. Right. And sometimes what happens is that when we begin to allow a person to be able to distort our viewpoint, we literally start beginning to live in a point of cognitive distortion because everything around you is no longer real. You're not believing the real world that is in front of you. You're believing everything that this person is actually telling you. You're believing everything that they are saying to you is real. And you're like, I don't really experience this, but okay, if that's what you're saying, then this is my reality, right? And a lot of the times is that when we have a fear of facing reality is because we have a fear of facing what is wrong. this is not right. This is wrong.
Right.
It doesn't feel good to me. This is abnormal. So we don't want to deal with what is abnormal. We don't want to deal with what is hard. We don't want to deal with what is unpleasant. We don't want to deal with what is untrue. I just want to deal with what is making me feel good in this instant, because you know what? He said this, so you know what? It got to be what it is. So therefore, I'm going to wrap this up. No, this is what it is, and that's what it's going to be. And then when you get hit with reality, you're like, wait a minute, I wasn't expecting this. And it's like, no, you should have expected this all along, because you believed in a realm that was cognitively distorted in order for you to keep going with this program. It's like a program. When you have a fear of facing reality, you have a fear of facing the actual truth. After dealing with cognitive distortion, because that's exactly what it was, and then when you begin to really start placing things, you begin to realize that you were actually in a narcissistic relationship that really does not deal anywhere on any circumstance or any realm of reality. And then you're like, okay, now I got to come back down. And then when you begin to face the world before you, you're like, I didn't even realize all of this was messed up. I didn't realize that my job was messed up. I didn't realize that my family life was messed up. I didn't realize that my home life was messed up, all because I was so like enthralled in a reality in which he was creating, like everything was great, and it wasn't. Right.
Wow.
So once I had to come down off of that, I had to deal with the fact that what was actually real, what I was facing, what I was fearful of, what I rejected, what I literally put to the side, because I was like, no, this is what he said. And I had to pick all that stuff back up. And I was like, okay, I got to face this one by one. Right. And then once you begin to actually get over the actual fear of facing what is real, reality is what is real. You know what I'm saying? It is not something that a person has told you. It is something that you actually can see. It is something that you actually can perceive. It is something that you know this is going to happen. So it has nothing to do with the outside person. It has everything to do with you and what you are literally experiencing firsthand. This is reality.
Right.
So once I began to deal with the reality and I let go of the fear, and my fear was a fear of failure. So therefore, I created a reality that was based on not failing. I couldn't fail. There was nothing in me that could fail, because I was like, no, nothing can fail. Everything's going to be perfect. Everything's going to be great. So I created in this idealistic world lack of failure. And that's just not, that's not reality for anyone in life, right? We all know we go through ups and downs. We all know we go through twists and turns. We all know we have to learn from our failures. So therefore, if you create a reality that lacks failure, therefore, you know, you're living in an idealistic world. And I had to literally allow failure in to say that it is okay to fail. It's okay to not succeed in something. It is okay for this to fail. And for me to say, you know what, I got to try this again, but try it in a different way, right? To produce a different outcome. I can't keep making the same mistake, because they say that if you keep making the same mistake more than once, therefore you are entering into a stage of lunacy, right? I'm not crazy. So I know I got to go about this a different way. And once I begin to go about things a different way, I no longer had a fear of facing reality, because I was living in it.
Woo. Carl, I can't keep up with these sisters, man.
No, they're dropping it. They're dropping them jewels big time tonight. I appreciate them.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna come comment actually from your mother, Carl. Let's see what she has to say. The wisdom she's gonna put onto us.
Facing reality will only work when you're ready to face the realization that you need to change. No matter how much we try to help someone see their faults, unless they want to see them, it won't work. A person addicted to drugs or alcohol will not go to rehab and get better unless they are ready to face the fact that they want to and need to get better. Face reality and be honest with what you see in the mirror and work on it. Then you will get better and feel better.
Woo! Man, we gotta drop it. Start calling her mom. Thank you, Mom. Appreciate it.
Go ahead.
All right. Next comment from
Floyd. I think from Floyd. He said, once you see the truth for what it is and not for what you would like it to be, it sets you free. Absolutely.
Very well said, brother. Yes. So Carl, man, what is your take from a man's perspective? I mean, the fear face of reality. What would you like to add, my man?
I guess a couple of different points from this. The first one is like I'm gonna use two different shows. First one's The Matrix. You know, when Lawrence Fishburne offered the blue and the red pill, and he's like, which reality do you want? Do you want to stay hooked up to the machine and continue to live this lifestyle that you're envisioning it to be? Or do you want to unplug from the machine and see the real reality for what it is? And a lot of people choose the pill to stay hooked up because they're comfortable with the machine's reality. So they're comfortable with their trauma. They're comfortable with the type of people they're used to dealing with. They're comfortable being a victim. They're comfortable with not having to be accountable. They're comfortable in a lot of different things that are not good for them, and they know it, but they're comfortable in it. So you know, it's you know, even a dog won't wallow around in its own stink, but there are people who will. And they'll hang in that because they're comfortable in that arena instead of taking the other pill that would unplug them from the machine and cause them to have to see the real reality and now begin to work, now to begin to sweat, now begin to fight, you know, begin to work to do that change from there. You know, another thing that we look at is the movie or TV show Snow White. You know, she goes to the mirror. She's like, mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the finds the wall? You know, and he's saying her. And then eventually with Snow White. And some people have this mirror that they go to on the wall and they ask that question and they get this false reality and not realizing that they're not it. You know, the mirror's lying to them. You know, and they don't want to change, you know, you know, and that's where I think a lot of people, you know, they don't want to do the tangible work. They don't want that realness. They don't want to feel something that's tangible and have to change. But they speak to say that, hey, this is what I want. I want to be healthy. I want to be whole, but stop making excuses to get there. Look in the mirror, admit that you need help and go get it. You know, like Tracy said, there are certified life coaches out there. There are counselors out there. There are therapists out there. I did all of that when I came out my marriage. And the biggest thing for me was I saw where there was a lack of help really for men out there, and it's why I became, you know, a life coach, you know, an accountability coach. I just felt like this is something that we need to have. There's nothing wrong with men going to therapy. I think it needs to be pushed more, applauded more, because there are a lot of men who won't face their youth trauma that they had, what they dealt with, an absent father, sexually abused, a toxic mother, you know, whatever the case may have been. You know, there are a lot of men who are afraid to face that reality because they're taught, oh, you're a man, just deal with it type of thing. And it's unfortunate, but they see that fear because they don't want to unplug. You know, let me stay plugged into the machine and I'll be fine in what I've got to do. And the last point I'll make is there's a lot of people too, if they look in that mirror, the fear is, and this is for people who are in a relationship. The fear is they're going to look in the mirror and realize that relationship is fake. They're going to realize that relationship is not really what it is. Because when you start looking in the mirror and you start realizing that, you know what, I deserve better, but I'm not even better. But I know I deserve better. But if I look in that mirror and realize that I got to do better, or they may realize that they're the problem in the relationship. They're calling their homegirls or their homeboys every day, fussing and complaining about that person. And now they look in the mirror and they really say, you know what? Man, this woman really does care about me and love me. This man really does care about me and love me. And I am sabotaging the relationship. Now I got to go back and tell people, you know what? It wasn't him or her, it was me. So that fear of looking in that mirror is now I got to go back and fix the story because I done messed it up. I done told all these lies on the person thinking it was them. But because I had a blanket over my mirror saying I'm looking in the mirror, but I'm really looking at a blanket or a sheet. You really couldn't even see yourself. Or you're looking in the mirror in the dark with the light switch off. See, some folk need to turn the switch on so they can see themselves in the mirror. And some folk may need to add more lighting so they can really see themselves in the mirror. It may still be too dark for you to see the demonic issues that you have within yourself that you can't even heal from yet.
Oof.
And that's part of the issue when you got to get into that mirror. Being in that mirror, it's going to dig deep in your soul if you're real about it. And if you're real about it and you really do the work, I'm telling you, you're going to be a better person on the other side.
All right, man. Now, before we take one last commercial break, actually, man, I have to say, man, this this show right here is better than an episode on Ozark, you know, because you guys are really dropping great material, and this is actually going to help the community. So I want to thank all three of y'all because this is truly needed, you know. So we're going to take one last commercial break. When we come back, we're going to do our Jerry Springer moment. And we're going to summarize the show and just give the audience our last take on everything. So this is DBDS. Don't you go nowhere. Sit tight. Right, welcome back, my peoples. I'm here with my sister Patience, my sister Nakia, and my brother DBDS coach, Carl the coach, and we just been dropping nuggets, been talking about take a hard look in the mirror, and listen, it's about that time. It's about that time to do our Jerry Springer moment. Before doing so, if you want more of these gems, and if you missed a portion of this fiery episode, make sure you go to our YouTube channel. You can click onto that, and also we're available on Amazon Music, Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio. So just make sure you check us out because we have so much amazing content and knowledge that you can use to help you in your next relationship. Also, as I stated before, make sure you go to dearbrothersdearsisters.com. This is the website that can help you. You can get a coaching session from my brother Carl. You can also do some courses up on there. You can get great materials, great books, such as the Dear Brothers, Dear Sisters Listen Up book, which is available right now. It's a knowledge guide to help you in your relationships and so much more. All right. So before we finish this episode, I just want to say one last time, and I'm always about helping people. Listen, horrific situations happen. My sister had a house fire, lost everything. So, her link is on my personal page as well as is on the DBDS group. So any little bit will count to help her. All right. So first, I am coming to my sister Patience. What are your final thoughts for today's show? By the way, phenomenal show. But what's your final thought?
Yes. Wow. Thank you guys. It was amazing. I mean, wow. Everything that everyone said was on point. Definitely needed to be said. So I'm so grateful and glad to be part of this. So again, I mean, it all boiled down to accountability, really, and accountability. And I think it's so important in every aspect in our lives, whether relationship with the opposite sex, friends, family, whatever it may be, it's so important. So I'm going to go back and say what I said earlier, that if you want to attract something different, again, you have to become something different at the end of the day. And also reality is people will only treat you the way that you allow them to treat you. So the bottom line, taking accountability for our action, our lives, being responsible for what happens in our relationships so that at the end of the day, we don't blame the other party or where we are in life, that we can look at ourselves in the mirror and say, you know what, this is where I went wrong. This is what I did wrong. Let me fix myself so that, I'll be ready for the next chapter, or whoever else is going to come into my life, and that they will not pay for, what was done in the past, and that I'll be able to embrace and live my true reality, really. So I appreciate the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my sister. Very well said. Coming to my sister Nakia. Woo! We need to have you back on, my sister. You and Patience just was dropping jewels after jewels after jewels. What are your final thoughts for the people out there?
My final thoughts is, what I would say is, be true to you. Be true to you. Be true to where you are at in your process, in your life, and live in that truth, right? I literally, after experiencing all of my life experiences, including up into my marriage, up probably about 3, almost going on 4 years ago, I created a group, and the group is called Live in Truth. It's a private group. But I created it because I said we have a big issue with living in the truth of who we are. We have an issue with living in the truth of where we are, and we have an issue with admitting where we are at in life, right? And there should never be an issue for a person to live in their true, authentic self. This has nothing to do with, people always say live in your truth. I ain't talking about living in your truth, because your truth can be a distorted version of what is reality based on how you are perceiving the life around you. So I'm not talking about living in the perception of what you see, because perception truly is guided based on your own personal thoughts. I'm literally referring to just living in the truth of where you are. All of the experiences that you have had, every lesson that you have learned, live in the truth of that. If you are not healed, live in the truth of the fact that, you know what, I'm not healed right now. If you are healed, live in the truth of the fact that you are healed. If you are in the recovery process, live in the truth of I am in recovery. And these are the things in which I will need. These are the things in which I require. This is the level of transparency. This is the level of truth that I will need in life, right? And I find that when you are able to do that, you have a higher level of accountability within self, and then you can also be able to face reality in a different way. When we live in fear, when we live in fear of truth, when we live in fear of consequence, when we live in fear of reality, we are literally blocking ourselves off from all things that we can actually experience, all things that we can grow from, and all things that that we honestly can obtain for our own personal self. Life is your own personal journey. And I had to learn that, because for a long time I lived life for everybody else and I did not live for Nakia. And I had to learn how to live life for Nakia by Nakia's rules, up to Nakia's standard, not living for the church, not living for the people, not living for family, not living for the elders, the bishop, none of that stuff. I was like, you know what, Nakia, you got to figure out who you are, what you want, what you don't want, what you like, what you don't like, because everything was surrounding other people outside of myself. So I was not being my true, authentic self. And once I discovered that level of freedom, I've been free ever since. And I absolutely love being this free, right? So that is what I will leave everyone with today, which is live in truth.
Yes,
Amen.
very well said. Appreciate that. Can you put your book up again? I want the audience to see your book, and please.
I can. Okay, hold on. Boom. Look, I'm like, where's the camera? There it is.
Love it. Okay.
And this book, you know what? The devil is a liar. See, that's how they do. See what I'm saying? That be the, you know what I'm saying? I'm over here. Something must have hit my phone. Anyway, but the book is available on Amazon.
Okay. Make sure you get that book, everyone. Thank you so much, my sister. Appreciate it. And Carl, man, what a phenomenal, amazing, spectacular. Man, this show was just everything. Patience and Nakia killed it. I mean, what are your final thoughts for today's show?
First off, I appreciate both my sisters, Patience, Takia, definitely for being on the show and just, really, truly, and even your transparency, the vulnerability, the willingness to be vulnerable and transparent. A lot of times I think people don't understand what we go through, and they don't realize, I tell people all the time, your trial is somebody else's testimony. So just because, you may go through something, yes, you have a testimony for what you went through, but your trial will be a testimony towards somebody else to help somebody else to come out their situation. So definitely appreciate both of you being vulnerable and transparent with that. Because that's part of the accountability piece, as we talked about. So the biggest thing I'll leave people, go look in the mirror. I mean, seriously, turn the TV off, turn the radio off, shut your bedroom door, bathroom door, whatever it is. Just go and stand and look in the mirror and really, I mean, literally, like physically get up and go look in the mirror tonight and see if what you see in the mirror is really who you want to be. And if you're happy with what you see in the mirror. And if it's not, find a solution how to get there. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You can't expect people to be at 100 coming to you and you're not at 100 to give to them. It's unfair. It's unfair. Nobody's supposed to come and save you. That whole damsel in the distress mess is just that, men, it's not a woman's job to pull you out of the rut that you're in. She's there to support you, not pull you. It's a difference. But it starts with you being accountable. It starts with you taking a long look in the mirror. And don't go stand there 30 seconds like, oh, I'm good. Just go take 20, 30 minutes. Just stand there and look in that mirror and just start to think what you're going through, where your life is at. And if you're not happy with that, it's time to make some changes. There's nothing wrong with that. We should be growing every day. And I think a lot of people are at a place where they're at because they choose not to grow. So that's what I'll leave the audience with tonight.
Very well said, my brother. Appreciate it. And before I provide you with my final thoughts, I just want to let everyone know our next episode will be Sunday, February 20th, due to the fact that next week is my wife and I's anniversary. So Tony Tone will be playing the background. It's our anniversary, right? And then the week after that, thank you, my peoples. And the week after that is, of course, Valentine's week. So we're going to proceed with some amazing shows starting February 20th. So my final thoughts for today's show is when you take a hard look in the mirror, that's a sign that you're willing to grow and to acknowledge the effect your behaviors have on your potential partners. I believe it also raises questions of why you can't get the relationship you desire, but it also provides answers as to how you can get the relationship you desire, as long as you're open-minded and you're willing to do the work. All right. So once again, I want to thank this amazing panel and much love to the DBDS family.
Take it away, Mel.